Chapter 4. He read it and his mind got numb. What did it mean? What to ask? And why him? But the book was silent. Justin kept the book on the table and walked to the dining hall, where Anil uncle was reading newspaper, while his mother was making some quick breakfast for Anil uncle. Justin slowly walked up to the dining table and stopped at a distance from Anil uncle. Anil uncle didn't see him as he was busy with the newspaper. How should I ask? Will he be offended? Should I really ask him? These were the thoughts going through Justin's mind. But finally, he stirred up some courage and asked him, Anil uncle, I wanted to ask you something. Anil uncle put down the paper and focused all his attention towards Justin and asked, What happened, son? You look tensed. Justin was sweating. His heart was beating fast. His hands were shaking a little. He finally conjured the courage and asked, Uncle, where is my father? Anil uncle's face turned pale. The slight smile that always covered his face left him. Suddenly the bell rang, and, unaware of all this, Justin's mother ran to open the door. On the way, she served a plate of hot dosha and coconut chutney onto the dining table. At the door, it was some sales lady selling sari. Although initially the poor housewife tried to resist, but eventually got mesmerized by the varieties of saris and sat down at the front door, shortlisting her favorites. Anil uncle tried to control his emotions and, while trying to smile, asked, Why suddenly? But before he could finish his sentence, he broke down and fell on Justin's feet, crying. I didn't want it to do it. He was my friend. I wouldn't even in my wildest dreams would have wanted it to happen to him. I tried so many times to tell everyone, but couldn't even find the courage to. Justin couldn't process what was being said. What are you saying, uncle? I don't understand. Anil uncle sat on the floor and started saying, while tears rolled down his eyes uncontrollably. Your father and I were childhood friends. I was your father's best man at his wedding. I was there with your father when you were born. All was going well until that dreadful day. It was a day cursed by the gods. It was a classmate's wedding party and I had gone alone because your auntie had gone to her house. As I was alone at home, I drank more than my usual quota. I was driving back home. It was night time and there was no street light. I was driving and very fast and something went into my eye and I blinked my just for a second. I got distracted and I hit someone. It was your dad. I got out of the car and I went searching for the person. But when I found him bathed in blood, I felt like my heart would explode. It was my friend. It was my brother. He was not moving. When he fell, he hit his head on a rock and I checked his breathing and he was not breathing. He was dead. I didn't know what to do. I was scared. I was full of regret. I first thought to take him to your house, But I knew that no matter what I say, people will people will create stories, and the future of my family will be ruined. Your aunt, who was pregnant at that time, it was after 3 years of treatment that she had conceived. I didn't care about my life, but I couldn't imagine my kid growing up as a murderous kid. So I decided to hide his body. I took his body to the abandoned house near the ground, and I buried him there in the courtyard. I thought of telling everybody many times, but never could gather enough strength or courage to do it. With time, people made up some stories. Some even said that they have seen him. To all of them, I just wanted to shout out and tell the truth. But every time, the father in me couldn't do it. So I decided that I will be a father to you and will take care of your family as my own. It would be my apology to my friend. I know that there is no justification that I can give that will make it right and give you back your father or make your family whole. All I can give is my life. You tell me, and I will take it at your feet. Justin moved a little back and sat on a chair. It was too much for him to take in. He remembered that beautiful tree in the courtyard. I want to go and see my father, he said. Anil uncle wiped his tears, got up with his eyes still looking away, not able to look at Justin. They got into the car and drove to the abandoned house. They parked the car on the ground and walked into the house. It was 3 p.m. and the sun was bright but was declining. They both walked into the house through the corridor and reached the courtyard. This time, when Justin looked at the tree, it had a glow. Where was it? He asked. Right where the tree is, Anil uncle said. Justin then again looked at the tree, but this time he had tears in his eyes. Anil uncle sat down and continued. The next day, when I came here, there was a small sprout. I didn't feel like removing it. It grew, and as it grew, whenever I came, I felt as if your father was here with me. I would come and sit here for hours, talking, apologizing, crying, praying to the gods so that they may do this one miracle, that this tree become your father so for a moment, so that I can look into his eyes and say that I'm sorry, that he was and will always be my best friend. But murderers don't deserve miracles. Justin walked up to the tree and touched its stem, its leaves, and hugged it as tightly as possible. And suddenly he felt someone hugging him back. Suddenly he felt a kind of peace and calm that he never had felt before. His joy came running through his eyes. He didn't open his eyes or even thought of it. He didn't wanted to. He somehow knew it was his father, a man he had no memory of. Yet his heart knew, and he felt safe. A feeling one can only feel in the embrace of one's father and no one else. They hugged for a long time, and then Justin felt the embrace open and something leave the tree. He opened his eyes and looked up and smiled. "Goodbye, father," he said. Finally, he felt complete. Finally, he felt the void inside him whole again. He turned and saw Anil uncle still on his knees, crying, with his face down. Justin walked towards him, sat near him, and said, "You killed my father. That is the truth." Anil uncle clenched his eyes, cursing that day in his mind and cursing himself again and again. And another truth is that I have never felt lonely or ever been treated as an outcast because of you. Wherever I needed a father, you were there. I never knew my father, but now I feel that if he could say, he would have said that he was happy, that you had been a true friend and taken care of his family in his absence. And I also think he has forgiven you. Anil uncle turned towards Justin, who also turned his head towards him. Both smiled and hugged each other. Then Justin said, "Let's go home before your dosa gets cold, or mom will kill us both." To which both of them smiled and went back home. Back at home, the book that was lying on the table vanished, leaving just a blue feather behind, which then flew off the window, maybe in search of another story in some faraway land. Stories never die, they live through the people. Who knows? Maybe we are all part of a big story that a mother is telling her child while she feeds her. Well, I guess that's a story for another time. I hope you loved this story, and I again apologize for my lag and inexperience. Hope to improve it in future. May God bless you all. Thank you.